Alright, it's a beautiful day today. The sun is shining, kind of. 50 Blades of Grey is off my case. So I'm thinking now would probably be a good time that we review Total War 3 Kingdoms. So I had a couple of ideas what I wanted to do for the review. So I can dress up as like Sun Se, Sun Jian.
Hey, slow down, Papa. You got another game to review.
Come on, what does 50 Blades of Grey want now?
No, the main seems to be sleeping. Instead, you gotta call from the main's a tiny build, and the game is called Hellpoint. It's one of those Dark Souls games that you like to play. Comprende?
Well, I've never heard Hellpoint before, but I mean, I do like my morning cup of Dark Souls.
And that's why you wanna take a look at this game, because you wanna make your people happy, you wanna make your family happy. So man, what you waiting for? Go on, review the game. I can't wait to see how it comes out. God bless you.
I feel like almost every month there's at least one or two Souls-like games coming out. At this rate, it's nearly impossible to keep track of it all. As much as the formula is being used, I'm still enjoying the hell out of them. While the core gameplay may be the same, all are trying to bring their own unique charms. There definitely is a range of quality between each title, but hopefully this one is on the upper echelon.
While I did receive a free code from Tiny Build, it will not deter me from a fair and honest review. With that said, let's all get good and prepare to die once again. This is Hellpoint. Cue the montage.
You start the game and enter your name. Then you're greeted with a cutscene as you find out that you are a random bald man, or a spawn as the game calls it. You eventually find out that you were created from a machine known as the Creator, and you are tasked to gather as much data as possible.
And honestly, this is all I'm gonna say plot-wise. It's a relatively new game, so I don't want to get into spoiler territory.
Although I can comment on how I feel about it, and the story to me is alright. It follows the Dark Souls way of telling a story, being very ambiguous about it all and having the player piece it all together. The problem is there are just no really interesting characters to latch on. Sure, Dark Souls is ultimately a solo experience, but the characters you meet along the way drew you in with their personalities and quirks. Here you meet people, but they lack any charm or personality to make them interesting.
But honestly, I play the Souls games for the gameplay, not the story. So with that said, how's the combat?
It is to be expected. You have your standard light and heavy attacks, your rolling, your blocking, and everything else expected in a Souls-like. Movement and striking are definitely on the quicker side, more akin to Bloodborne. There are a decent variety of weapons to play around with, but they are very spaced out in terms of when you will get them. The biggest difference is the inclusion of guns with the futuristic setting. You can equip this on your main or offhand, and there are a nice variety of them with various firing modes to use. If you're familiar with Bloodborne, you'll fit in nicely here. Backstabbing also does not exist in the traditional sense, but you do extra damage when striking from the rear. This opens up strategies to get behind your opponent for maximum damage. This is especially useful for facing bosses as they tend to be health sponges.
Okay, so there's like an ability called Backstab that does extra damage in the back if you're able to pull it successfully and correctly, but it's not like a canned animation like you see here in Dark Souls. Wait, I don't recognize this place or these weapons or the armor for that matter. Which Dark Souls is this from?
The less you know, Papa, the better.
However, there are some notable issues here, mainly with hit detection. It seems biased as hell, as bosses and enemies who barely touch you seem to connect, while you can be right up against someone and still miss with your strikes. It's highly frustrating and easily one of the game's biggest issues. Another one is that the bosses are beyond lackluster. Attacks are easily telegraphed, and many of the bosses become common fodder later on, making it feel more like filler. It seems to be a running checklist on what is expected here. You got your giant bosses, you got your double bosses, your beasts, your armored bosses, and whatever else is on that list. And like I mentioned before, some of them are just massive tanks who take forever to go down. It's not that they are hard because they have a difficult move set or because of the AI, but because of their high amount of health and one hit kills from the most biased system of hit detection.
Speaking of AI, it's pretty damn stupid with it dodging itself to death and falling down pits. Honestly, this seems to be a staple in a lot of these Souls-like titles.
One challenge that I had about getting this review out as soon as possible is the fact that this game was getting patched since day one. A lot of the hit detection issues, as well as many other weird glitches I have experienced, started to go away, but they still exist in some capacity. While I do appreciate the developers for sticking with the game post-launch, it really feels like they should have polished this game up a bit more before release.
This is a lesson that many of these indie companies need to learn. You only have one chance to make a first impression, and that first impression can be the difference between a successful game and a commercial failure.
Man, Papa, you need to relax. You sounding very harsh right now. You're gonna get people really mad, comprende?
It's not that I'm trying to be mean, it's just that I'm trying to be blunt, and sometimes it comes across that way, so no offense to the developers. I'm pretty sure you guys worked hard on this title.
Okay, thank you for clearing that up, Papa. I appreciate it because, man, you're gonna make a lot of enemies that way, comprende?
Whatever. Anyways, one thing that is common is that you will die. Whether or not that'll be a lot depends on how good you are. When you die and run back to pick up your lost souls, in this case called Axiom, you may encounter a spawn of you along the way. This is very similar to Hollow Knight and also is reflective of the equipment you died with. Just like with Hollow Knight, it's an interesting diversion, but nothing too special. At least more thought was given to it here than it was in Hollow Knight.
Man, and now you're talking about Hollow Knight? At this rate, you're gonna have an army at the door, comprende?
Well, if that's the case, why don't you just stand guard and make sure it doesn't happen?
You know, that's a good idea. I'm gonna get my gun ready and I'm gonna protect this place. They're not gonna get us, comprende?
Another notable change is the fact that your bonfires, known as breaches, don't reset enemies when you use them. This makes it much easier to maintain health as you can run back to them without the risk of enemy respawnings. However, transporting to the breaches will reset the enemies. Another interesting note is that your health packs won't restore when going back to one of the breaches. This is actually filled by the enemies that you defeat, so you want to dish out as much damage as possible without taking any. If you have the right consumables, the breaches also allow you to increase and decrease the difficulty of the universe. However, this can be easily abused as the amount of Axiom you gain from just one difficulty up is incredibly high. This makes grinding almost non-existent if done correctly. The biggest issue I have with the breaches is the way fast travel is handled. You need an item to sync the breach up with other breaches to transport between them. The problem is that these items are few and far in between and you have to do this for every breach, so a lot of backtracking will be present.
This is an issue I had with another Souls-like in the Surge 2. It seems like all these companies forgot that From Software knew how annoying this is and added fast travel for all bonfires. All this backtracking all it does is just to pad out the game and make it longer than it actually is.
And man, traveling through these levels can get so damn tedious. You can go down a wrong path and have no real worthwhile reward at the end of it, or get to a place that requires a certain item to progress. It tries to get clever with opening paths to link back to the breaches, so I will give the game some credit there. And more credit where it's due. The platforming is actually passable. There is a dedicated jump button to use instead of being a weird clunky dash hop in the Souls series. While there is far more platforming than I would have liked in a game of this style, I can't fault the developers for making it work. There's also a strange addition known as the Underworld. Basically, you connect with these monoliths and you're in the same location, but the enemies and colors change. Plus, your character becomes left-handed for some reason. Sometimes you'll find a boss that you'll beat and takes you back, while other times you don't. Not sure if this is a glitch or by design. When you're here, it's a great opportunity to farm for items and find interesting loot. If you die in this world, however, you lose all the items you gained, which can be detrimental, especially when you get an item to sync up the breaches and now have to begin the long road of backtracking.
The biggest draw to me was the split-screen multiplayer that this game features. While it sounds awesome and I would love to play with somebody, I'd rather it not be my uncle just because I can't rely on him not dying. With that said, I can still comment on the multiplayer.
You can join others when you see a call for help. There doesn't appear to be a limit on where you and your partner can travel to, so it appears that you may be able to play the whole game together like this. Connecting took some time, but once I was connected, there wasn't much lag or delay in my attacks. There's an actual dedicated PvP. You can find these markings in your universe and challenge others. Whether or not it is broken, I am not sure, but I died in one encounter without knowing what actually killed me. Anyways, let's wrap this up with the presentation. Graphically, I dig the dark sci-fi aesthetic Hellpoint has going on. The models look nice, as well as the environments and armor pieces. However, the animations are incredibly janky and simplistic. The one where you're climbing and moving side to side is easily the funniest animation here. The sound effects and music are good, but sometimes they forget to play. Again, refer back to my comments earlier about weird glitches I've experienced. Nothing was ever game breaking, but stuff like this happened more often than I would have liked to. Overall, I find it very difficult to recommend this one. While I do like the dark sci-fi aesthetic and the Dark Souls combat is fun enough, everything else just falls flat. The game suffers from hit detection issues and lackluster bosses, as well as various other weird glitches. Simply put, it lacks polish and really needed more time in the oven.
There's also a pretty cool crafting mechanic where you can collect blueprints that I didn't mention before, but it's just not enough to save this title. If you really are curious, I guess I can recommend it, but honestly, I would say wait for a deep sale to pick up this title if you ever plan on doing so. It's just not that solid of a Souls title, and there are far better alternatives out there.
Okay, Papa, so I took out 12 beasts and 3 main. You put them together, that's 15 beasts, man. Comprende?
Beasts? What? First of all, man and beast are two different entities. They're not the same. And two, I don't have any beastmen coming down my door. Yet.
Oh, that may be true, Papa, but remember, if you don't prepare yourself, you're gonna get the color of beast, man. Comprende?
Anyways, I'm taking off. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Stay safe, and as always, this is Pow3rh0use signing off.